Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Baraa Eisa, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Global PMO Day. Today is not just another event on your calendar, because today is focused on learning, questioning, and even challenging existing thinking within PMO and project management. Rethinking PMO success from maturity to impact. I'll briefly introduce you the PMO-MI, the maturity and impact model, and then we will hear from two professionals who recently completed the Tier 1 assessment and will share their real experience with us. So, for many years, when we spoke about PMO success, we usually look at things like governance, processes, templates, reporting, and structure. And of course, all these are important. But today, organizations are asking something deeper. They are not only asking, do we have a mature PMO? But they are asking, what is the value this PMO actually creating? Is it helping the leadership make better decision? Is it improving delivery? Is it supporting the strategy? Is it creating measurable impacts? And this is where the conversation becomes very important, because sometimes PMO can look like very mature on paper, but it can have like all the report, the dashboard, the documents, but at the same time, it may still struggle to influence. So the question is not only how mature we are, but are we really making a difference? And this is why PMO-MI is not about proving PMOs are good, but it's about preventing them from being wrong in silence. So one of the biggest challenges the PMOs are creating is like self-diagnosis. Many PMOs, they are assessing themselves internally. They are looking at their own reports, own processes, like their own perception and sometimes their own assumptions. But without an external reference point, it becomes like very easy to miss blind spots. That is why the impact does matter, and also benchmarking does matter. Without peer comparison, industry context, and external reference point, PMO may clearly not see whether the real gaps are. This is where PMO's MI comes in. PMO-MI stands for PMO Maturity and Impact Model. And the idea behind this is like quite simple. PMOs need a better way to understand themselves, not only through like the maturity, not only through internal opinions, and not only through isolated measures. They need a more complete diagnostic lens. That's why PMOs look at three different dimensions with our maturity, impact, and benchmarking all together. Because these three things are very connected. Maturity helps understand how developed and structured the PMO is, and impact helps us understand whether the PMO is creating real value. And to make lists not theoretical, but also to make it real, we do have already completed the Tier 1 assessment with us. So the purpose here is not talk about the model only from our side, but only to listen from people who are like real participants. So that's why I want to introduce you these two amazing ladies. We have Claudia and we do have Rana. Claudia is specializing in PMO's leadership, governance framework, strategic alignment, reporting structure, and PMM tools. The second speaker is Rana. Rana is a quality and project management consultant with deep expertise in education, consulting, ISO certification, and institutional excellence. So I would like to give it over to you, Claudia.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Baraa, and how exciting it is for me to take the team or PMO experts through like what we've achieved as part of our maturity assessment and like the impact that I believe that we are making within the organization. So effectively, I'd like to start like just by telling you or why I decided or why I was motivated to get an external diagnostic on our PMO. We run an extremely complex environment, and it's as Baraa mentioned, like a PMO is perceived very admin, governance, etc. Driven instead of adding the value. So internally, I had a sense of where we stood as a PMO. I thought that I knew that we needed some sort of like way forward. For me, independently, I could not look at that. So it was nice to get a different view, an objective view for us to improve as an organization. And I think it like was also like to validate certain perceptions that I've had. I think as well, like evolving as a PMO to support business needs was critical for us. It was a high demand and requirement. Going through this exercise also gave us the ability to benchmark against best practices, and it gave me the ability to facilitate like constructive conversations with our leadership team in terms of like how do they actually support us to mature and like buy into the capability to add value. And then like fundamentally as well, like being like having aspirations to grow your PMO to support business needs. I wanted to like ensure that I was not being ambitious, or too ambitious to take us to what our to be model needed to be, which is like another level of excellence, right? So I think what I'd like to share with the community today is our experience in taking the assessment. I think it was quite intuitive, like great consultants that worked with us. I learned a lot from it personally, looking at like how many services we can actually offer as a PMO. Um, I also it took me it gave me the ability to step back and not be as aspirational as I wanted to be, where I could like actually focus on what our key deliverables or outputs would be to add to like business success. And then I think for me as well, what was fundamental was like just like understanding that there's so much that PMOs like across the world have to offer. I mean, 24 recommended services are quite a lot. So we scored a maturity level 2. And I think why it was key for me to highlight this to the organization is that we were developing. It was the right time for us to be scoring that. And I remember Dr. Robert asking me, like, with shock, like, he was so like objective. Usually people would like score themselves much higher. And I was like, that's not going to add any benefit if I'm not being realistic as to where we are, right? And like I don't think that the maturity score ties into like us failing as a PMO. I do think that it just gives us the opportunity to understand what our key areas are to improve on. So we were focused a lot on a delivery model type of PMO, whereas the business demand was for us to be more operational and strategic. And as part of the assessment, we obviously like identified what those key areas would be in terms of focus to get to actually giving our business some sort of impact. Yeah, so you can move over to the next slide for me, please.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Yeah, so just in terms of the key insights that stood out for me as a PMO leader in terms of taking this assessment, and it was basically like our process maturity was there. We were doing the right things, but our outcomes and how we were actually articulating it to the business in terms of understanding and value that was not as measurable as we would have liked it to be. And I can say that like that's an area that has improved, but it definitely stood out for me. It was like you're doing the right things in terms of process and like you're supporting the business as need be, but can you actually measure that outcome, and what does that like success look like, right? It also gave me like the ability to identify what is like actually important, because I believe that every PMO is different. So like different services would benefit our businesses differently. And I think within that view and within that understanding or the insights that this assessment has taught me was like that I can reprioritize in terms of being effective. Like, what would I like to implement? Am I really looking at like the correct initiatives to ensure that we align with our strategic business goals? And then I think another key one was like maturity is not linear, and it was very interesting for me to go and when I looked at it in terms of our final score, like there were things that we were doing extremely well, like we were scoring like really really high, and then we were lacking in certain areas, and it was just like it doesn't necessarily all flow in together. That's why this capability I think is so special, because it has like different. Yeah, like we know every morning's different when we wake up, right? It's just always a
Yeah.
challenge, but it has different ways of impacting organization. So, yeah, I do think like delivery discipline necessarily doesn't tie into like your effective portfolio management and like or strategic alignment, right? It all needs to like, you really need to look at this picture like broadly. And I think the assessment has given me that ability to best support our organization. Um, my view on what the impact has been post our assessment, like all of us know, coming from a PMO background, doing this for many years, that we come across as that compliance type of capability within organizations. And as you mentioned earlier, like that's not like where we want to see ourselves, or that's not where we are bringing the best value to our organization. And like we need to influence. So we want to get to the point where it's not just about like, oh, having that like I wouldn't like when I say the stick or being the policeman, where people would perceive us that way, but where we actually like work together with our teams and we can make influential decisions or like influence how we actually progress from an organizational perspective. And then, yeah, for me, fundamentally, getting a high score is not that important. It's about like doing the right thing, getting to the right like services, processes, and yeah, any outputs that's actually going to target like success for us as an organization. Also, like, I think maturity does align to where you stand in terms of your organization. So it's the culture, it's the complexity. It is, I mean, if I look at our organization, it's like we run between 160 to 180 projects on a monthly basis. And for PMO team to like take control or look after that in terms of adding that value, it does become a bit complex. So you have to like be a bit lenient on yourself and be like, listen, it is quite big. So you can have all the ambition because you get demands from every area. And it just like it's about like also being realistic as like a PMO. And I think for me, fundamentally, what has been like a key driver for us this year and as an output of what I've learned to make an impact is our continuous improvement stream. It is just like we can crawl right now, but eventually we would get to the position of running. And I think that is what makes it all exciting. Like there is always room for improvement and we have to just take it forward. And then I think I just want to like wrap up with where we are as a PMO today, right? Post our assessment, I think like we've built great continuous improvement capabilities, processes, and understanding. And it's all thanks to what I've learned as part of this assessment. We've also given our delivery leaders a lot more accountability, which obviously then makes us work as one unit and enhances our ecosystem. We've strengthened our commercial governance. It's like very proud of that. And it's been the strongest since our PMO has kicked off, which ironically is 4 years today. And then yeah, it's in the stars. And then like our forecasting as well to estimated cost of completion, our revenue forecasting. Being a consulting house is a big demand in terms of our delivery teams. So like forecasting and like actual management of your internal project as well as satisfying our clients has improved tremendously. We've built a solid like partnership with our PPM tool. It's our one-stop shop. it's like our single source of truth. A lot of work going on in the background, but it's credible enough for our executives like to have like one view, delivery leaders. It's where our PMs and our DMs like live in every day. That's where they spend most of their time. So yeah, it's just brought out that visibility. It's given us as PMO the ability to like report. I have like complete insights if I have a question and I need to look at something from like a strategic or an overall view. It's we've
Yeah.
just done really, really great in that implementation, and it's contributed effectively like to how we continuously improve it. And I think what's fundamental as well is because I could go and have like good conversations with our leadership team post our assessment. We could then I could get their buy-in. So I have 100% support in terms of ensuring that I strategically align. And I think that is an important and like a key mandate which stands out for us as PMO. And I think, like, yeah, just like to wrap up, like, in terms of like what stood out most for me was not what we were doing well, but it gave me, like, or us as a team, the ability to focus on where our areas of improvement are.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, and like we could prioritize it because we know that we have so much to deliver. So just the fact that we could prioritize as an organization to effectively add the impact that we should in terms of what we should improve.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm keen on doing another assessment because I do believe that we've not got into an integrated stage.
Yeah.
And yeah, like yeah, so yeah, that's my feedback from our maturity
Yeah.
assessment. It's definitely driven us to making a positive impact within the organization.
Yeah. Thanks, Claudia, for sharing your experience and reflection with us. And I can tell you that I have seen like hundreds of self-assessment and it's biased. Like always people are giving themselves like 4, 3. They are very ambitious with it. So being true with it will benefit you the most. So thanks again. Dr. Rana, so over to you. We'll also want to hear from your side. And I think we don't have much time. It will be around 10 minutes or 7 minutes for you.
Okay, thank you, Baraa. Just I want to share my presentation.
You can
Okay,
see it here with me.
because
Wait,
I did some minimal changes. So if I can, I would share, or I can follow the present. Can I share it?
Marito, can you please help us on this? Yeah, if you can present yours.
Yes, the file is uploading now. Okay. So I can start. Yes.
Yeah.
Good morning and evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to present my experience and case study about PMO maturity assessment. I am Dr. Rana Maya, and I will present the PMO assessment maturity model Tier 1 presented by AIPMO and our case study for construction and real estate company. Actually, the PMO in our company is centralized. We are now 3 persons, and the PMO established less than 1 year. We implemented the assessment model, and it included questions for all 24 domains of PMO services. And this is example of how the questions were structured. And this question about KPIs of PMO, actually, we didn't applied it as was mentioned. So we scored just 2 points for KPI of PMO maturity or using KPIs. The overall assessment for all the PMO domains was 2.6. 2.6. This means that we are now in developing phase, and we now working to go to level 3, and after that to level 4, actually, and finally to level 5, which is enable us to introduce synergized services. So I will now introduce in detail the overall assessment. Here we can see the overall radar chart for our services maturity. Here we can see that we are strong at quality management and supplier management. So this we scored 4 and 5. From the other side, we have a weak point, like at change management, at portfolio management, and at demand management, benefit management. All these red spots scored just 2 from 5 at maturity assessment model. And now we are working to improve risk management, resource allocation, communication practices. So you can see all the services scored between 2 and 3, except of quality and supplier management. Now we can see that even we have some initial practices in place, but their contribution to project management is actually not at a best practice. So I will now display how we benefited from the assessment tool. We can see here the top 5 domain, which we scored at 4 or 5 or more than 3 at good practices. We can see here that we scored good at quality management and effective supplier management. Also, the schedule management was good. But the tool provided us with recommendation for every domain. Here we can see the recommendations for the domain of suppliers management. We can see that the tools recommended us to continuously monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of supplier management. Actually, now we haven't did this before, and now we started to monitor and evaluate effectiveness of supplier management procedures at the structured way. Also, the tool recommended to provide training to PMO staff about supplier management, which we didn't apply before, and now really we started to prepare for this training. Also, the tool recommended to utilize supplier practices or maybe international tool and practices. Really, this is a very good idea. We didn't even thought about it before, and we are considering to check the supplier management tools and techniques as used at global level. So this is about strengths. Also, the tool recommended a lot of practices at the bottom 5 domains and even at all domains. So we can see that the tool recommended us to define fundamentals of PMO, to implement robust configuration, to develop integrate benefits, and also to address PM value. This is in general, but in specific at every domain, we have recommended by very good practices, like here about portfolio management. It was recommended to include setting objective and demand. Really, we didn't consider the demand in this professional manner, and it was a very good highlight we get. Also, recommended to ensure consistent utilization of standard documents. We started before to use standard documents, but now we are focusing more because we discovered that we scored just 2. This means that we need to improve the practices as standard documents and templates about portfolio management. Really, we were concentrate about just documents and the standards of project management. We not concentrated, but it seems that we need to improve our documents and templates regarding portfolio management. Also, the recommendation included about improving demand requests, and which now in progress. Finally, we can see that the tool provided us with insights about maturity level for the pillars, the most important pillars of PMO, which are governance, integration, leadership, standardization, and tools. And we can see the overall assessment for all the domains ranged between 2 and 3. But the most less was the leadership, and also it was strange at a better way. So we see now that we need to have additional support for the structure and objective from the organizational leadership. Also, we did about this, and we can see that we have to support this important pillar in order to deliver our services aligned with our strategy. So finally, I will conclude that it was very great and valuable experience, because now we are working to improve our maturity at structured way. So we pick all the weak practices, and now we are working to improve them in order to go to level 3. The staff now aware in a structured manner about what tools and practices we have to go through at the next maybe 3 months. And we are now have more confidence about our work. We know now that we are working upon international standards. And really, when we started to apply this recommendation, we find better results about our work, and maybe we saw some values of project management. So it was a great experience. Many thanks for AIPMO for this tool, and we are happy to continue also to Tier 1, Tier 2 of assessment to see your assessment as experts. Maybe also it will be more helpful to us. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Rana. So as we heard from Claudia and Rana, Tier 1 is like a very useful point. It helps PMOs reflect on their maturity, identify possible improvements area, and start structured conversations. But I want you to remember also, like, Tier 1 is only the beginning. And as we said, sometimes it's biased. So for organizations that want to go deeper, PMO-MI offers several tiers, as you can see here, from Tier 2 to Tier 6, for single and even multi PMOs. And finally, I just want to tell anyone who is joining us today, we would like to invite you to try it yourself. It's free, it will not take time from you. It's just around 10 minutes, and it gives you an instant report, and it will come to your email directly, and then you can see all the dashboards. The dashboards contains a lot of stuff, like the executive overview. It tells you all the domains, rather, like the 5 top domains. The bottom, it has the benchmarking in the worldwide. We have more than 31 countries, and even like the peers benchmarking in each industry. So there's more to it. Finally, thank you so much. I would like to thank Claudia and Dr. Rana once again for joining this session and sharing their experience with us. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much. Thank you very much, Baraa.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.